Like most things, it's easy to understand. It's easy to comprehend. It's the implementation that's the challenge, right? But that's the idea, that progress is not always a visible step forward. Growth is not always a measurable inch or mile. To feel good about, to celebrate. It's not always a tangible victory or a pat on the back that's a smile about. Sometimes it's sidestepping. Sometimes it's stepping backwards, reminding ourselves to look up and gain perspective. Because we are always inclined to look at the immediate, that what feels good in this lesson says. No, there's always a big picture to keep in mind. It reels us in the big picture. It's what gives us purpose. It drives our happiness, that thing we want on the top of the hill, the North Star, the X on the map. That's what's sustainable. And I say it's been a game changer for me. Because one of my biggest adversaries over the years has been that voice in my head, almost pleading with me to indulge in a thing that will bring me that immediate result. It's money now, growth now, validation now. There's comfort there. Our minds want that satisfaction. That's why you see all those guys standing next to the whiteboard saying they have the formula to make you rich tomorrow. We want tomorrow. We believe in some capacity that can be real tomorrow. But that's what leads us. And so I've spent a lot of time reflecting over the years on how to incentivize those steps that aren't immediately impactful. There's not the flashy medal you're going to get it right now. But I do know that if I do it, it's going to get me to my long-term goal. How do I incentivize that? Because like I said, the natural inclination is to dismiss it. I'm walking laterally across the mountain so that ultimately I can find the most applicable path and ascend. And that's a scary thing, Building long-term gives you very little to immediately slap on a resume, to brag or rant about at parties. There's nothing flashy to impress with, but it's believing in a long-term game, doing what most people can't, trading that certainty that you could have had for an extraordinary later. It's never a loss to do. It has to be done so that you can position yourself for the future. Sometimes you have to wait, do the mock work quietly in the dark, so that you can build something that you feel will have an impact. It's not a loss to step backwards, to tweak things you're not happy with. It's not a loss to explore a question or reinvent. It's true, those actions in and of themselves aren't going to put money immediately in your pockets. But if you find the discipline to see the big picture, you realize that long-term those things bring happiness, contentment, excitement, which guess what? Leads to an accomplishment and progress, and the financial stability that you are looking for. Chasing flashy things, chasing the immediate moment, it gets you a quick rush, a nice blast of dopamine, but it's empty. Ultimately, it's unfulfilled because nothing worth having is quick. That's life. But it's often the illusion that guides us, right? You'll never see how many auditions the 33-year-old actor went through before he was cast in a major film. You don't see that. You don't see the countless hours or shows at midnight gigs in front of 3 people that the rock star endured. You just don't. It's not celebrate. We celebrate what we see, and what I've learned is that the most important things, they're not just visible to the naked eye. It's funny. It's like people, but they're ashamed or embarrassed by the fact that they're climbing on top of their own health to something truly significant to them. Because the person next to them is bragging about blindly leaping 3 steps right. And that's great. Progress is great. But unless it's taking you to where you want to be the most, is that a win? I've had many friends that have left 6-figure or higher jobs. They podcast or create or start their own businesses, and people's first reaction is always like, wow, look at that. Look at what you're walking away from. We see scarcity. We are naturally inclined to see life through the lens of scarcity. But you need to remember that that's what we do to establish and protect our well-being. That's why I've worked so hard to transform my thinking over the years, to to look out and think, who cares? But I had looked to see what was out there. There are no limitations to what can be yours if you're not on the top of the world. Make it happen. And I understand people are complex situations. They're not easy to answer it. Everyone's different. Everything is different. But there's a principle that's consistent, and it's that you can always improve your situation. There will never be false to some degree. You can improve your situation. There's always opportunity, just what you should see. A friend of mine sent me a text yesterday saying the past and the future, they are just imagination. All you have now is everything other than split second is the story you are deciding to tell yourself. That's it. Think about that. We're operating off what we decide is real or imaginary, possible or impossible. We're living in a world that is our own. There's no them or they are crowd, just individual people all telling themselves some variation of a story. And so taking this back to the point, caving into that pressure, accommodating to them now so that we feel important, so that our self-worth sees that temporary spike and neglects the opportunity, it makes us feel like we're stepping forward, that we're progressing. But in reality, we are that voice. That pressure to conform to what will impress Richard next door will always lead to it, will always be our detriment, and it takes truly what I believe is the most pure important aspect of life and sticks it in the closet so that we can feel like we're on par with everyone else. I'll never forget starting out, and I bring this up a lot because it was one of those moments where I recognized that a huge shift was happening in my life. Went out with some friends in college, right? And one's working for a senator, one's at Goldman, one's at our lawyers. And I'm thinking, well, geez, I just quit my job, but I have this really cool idea for a YouTube channel. And I just, I don't think any girls are gonna be swooning over that. And I struggled, right? At the time, it was difficult for me. And I look back and I'm just thankful every day that at the time, I was able to locate somewhere. My soul courage to stick that out. To believe that if I executed on this dream, I could have an impact. Because like I mentioned above, it was painful in the moment. But when you think big picture, bigger things happen, right? I'm doing things now that I never ever would have been able to do. If I didn't have that desire to do the unconventional thing, if I stopped it, it's sort of the discomfort. Or if I stopped when I felt like I was losing this imaginary race to those people around me, I wouldn't have had the creative flexibility that I have now. I wouldn't be able to do what I do now. I wouldn't have the people in my life that I have now. You have to earn that every single day. And it makes me wonder how many people stopped when they could have taken their own unique vision into the existence if they didn't retreat. When they felt like they were a lone wolf. When it felt like they were losing a race that didn't exist. When they felt like their neighbors were getting ahead, or their classmates, or their friends are doing the conventional things till they had to. They were too scared to step backwards. And I'm telling you right now, I'm telling you that stepping backwards, that ability to temporarily find yourself, to create yourself, that will mean everything. That will open doors for you that you never would have thought existed, that you never would have come across them, because you would have been too scared to look for them. You need to make opportunities.